Hey everybody, welcome back to Pine and Berry Homestead. It is April 1st and it is a cold and dreary day here in Maine. We're getting some snow and some rain today, so I thought it would be a good opportunity for me to get some of my tomato seeds started, and I figured I'd take you along on the journey while I get these planted. I'm gonna touch base with you quickly and just kind of give you an idea of what I'm growing in my garden this year. Some things that I've grown in the past, some of these are new, and really my main focus on what I'm growing for tomatoes is more of the paste tomatoes and the meatier ones, because I'm really interested in making sauces and salsas. There will be some slicers as well as cherry tomatoes in the garden, but my main focus is really on those paste tomatoes. But to start off, I guess I'd want to talk about, so the companies that I mainly get my seeds from are Johnny's Selected Seeds and Pine Tree Garden Seeds. They're both Maine-based companies, and I really love to support local as best as possible. I do have some seeds from Baker Creek, which is also a great seed company. And let's see, I think that's it. I have some seeds that I have also saved from previous gardening years, so we will also be planting some of those. But to kind of start off talking about like the slicers that I'm going to plant are the Dr. Witchy's yellow tomato. They're beautiful and they are yummy. I'm also going to be growing some Cherokee purple tomato, and then we'll be growing Matt's wild cherry tomato because they are just so delicious. And moving into the paste tomato and some oxheart tomatoes, we're going to be growing speckled Roman, Cipola's Pride, Amish paste, which is a given, Costoluto Genovese. I have not grown this before, but it looks really good, and I just figured I'd plant a couple of them to try and see if we like them and see if they'll be a staple in the garden or not. This one is Hungarian Heart. I did grow it in the past. It didn't do so well, but I really wanted to give it another shot and see if, again, it's going to be a staple in the garden, if it's worth my time and effort that I put in to upkeeping the tomatoes, pruning them, making sure they're watered and whatnot. The last one I have never grown in the garden either. It's Pantano Romanesco. Again, just going to give it a try and see if it's something that we will enjoy, see if it's something worth my time, if it's prolific. There's many factors that I consider when I keep something in the garden or not. It doesn't necessarily have to be prolific in order for it to stay in my garden. It doesn't have to produce a lot. It could just be absolutely delicious. So that might be a reason why I would keep it. But I am looking for plants that are higher producing, because if I'm going to put in all of this time and effort into the garden, I need to make sure that it's also, kind of working for me as well, that I'm not just working for it. And then these seeds are ones that I had saved from, I believe it was my 2020 garden or my 2021 garden. I think this is called 10 Fingers of Italy. I could be wrong. If I am, I will put a text box up here to tell you what these actually are called. Maybe 10 Fingers of Naples. Prolific plants, very, very prolific plants. The tomatoes themselves are like this big, but when we make our sauces and salsas, we kind of mix them all together, mix a bunch of tomatoes together. Excuse me, I cannot speak. Words just don't come out of my mouth correctly sometimes. When we make salsas and sauces, we tend to mix a bunch of tomatoes together that have like different flavor profiles, and these ones we do enjoy. I also wanted to touch base really quickly on how I plant my tomatoes. I actually put, probably, depending on how many plants I'm growing, I will stick anywhere from 2 to 10 seeds in one pot. That's just how I prefer to start my tomatoes. Once they germinate and grow and get their first set of true leaves, I will split them up and put them in their own individual pots. But this is just how I enjoy getting them started. It may not necessarily work for you, but it does work for me. I enjoy the process of splitting up the plants and putting them in their own pots. And also wanted to talk about the medium that I'm using. So for many years now, I've used Coast of Maine's Sprout Island seed starting mix, and it has worked well for me. I do enjoy using it, but some of the Facebook groups that I am a part of have mentioned using Happy Frog. So I've actually taken my leftover Sprout Island Coast of Maine and mixed it in with the Happy Frog soil, just to kind of see what happens. Am I going to get healthier plants? Are they going to be growing quicker? I don't know. We'll see. It's an experiment. That's kind of part of gardening. You find out what works and what doesn't. What works for you may not work for me, and vice versa. And that's kind of what I tell people who, ask me questions and advice, that it's not like a one size fits all thing. What works for me may not work for you. Also, excuse the hoarseness in my voice. We have been hit with some sort of virus, something, bad cough, scratchy throat. So I'm a little hoarse. So I'm sorry. But the first thing I'll go ahead and do is just get my pots filled up, and then I will start putting seeds in and just enjoy the process of getting my hands dirty on this really gross, yucky day. Something else that I wanted to mention before I begin sowing seeds is that our garden is not established quite yet. This will be our second year gardening here on this property, and it's not an established garden. We're really just getting started. So when I sow these seeds, I have to keep that in mind, that I only have so much space right now. I do start a little bit extra seeds because I do give some away to family and friends. But I really have to keep in mind not to overdo it, because we just don't have the space for that right now. We only have 6 garden beds built, and we have to build 2 more raised beds. And the in-ground garden beds that will go around the perimeter of the garden are not anywhere near being done. I would say those will probably be ready to be planted in like the 2024 growing season. So yeah, things like the cherry tomatoes and the slicers, I'll probably only do 1 or 2 of for my garden, and anything extra I will give away. Again, my focus is really on those paste and ox heart tomatoes, so I can make the sauces and the salsas. And that's really it. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Also, I have pre-labeled my labels, so that's all done and ready to go. I don't have to worry about that. I can just plop it in when I'm done.
I wanted to take a quick moment here to mention that the directions on the seed packet say to start tomatoes 6 to 8 weeks before your last estimated frost date. The Farmer's Almanac tells me my estimated last frost is around May 8th, but as a Mainer, I know darn well that the tomatoes will not go into the ground until the last week of May, first week of June. So I am starting a week or two early. They'll probably be sitting on my shelf for 10 weeks before they go out. I personally don't always follow the directions on the seed packets. But again, this is kind of where a one size fits all doesn't necessarily work for everybody, work the same for everybody. Some people may find that they have better success starting their seeds a little bit early. Some find starting them right on time or maybe even like a week or two late works for them best. And I am going to call myself out here about the amount of times I say in these videos. I had no idea how often I use it while I'm thinking about the next thing I plan on saying. It is definitely a filler word. You may not have noticed, but I cringed at myself when I was listening to the playback. I mean, or you may have cringed with me. I don't know, but now that I'm more aware, I will try to be more conscious of it. I cannot guarantee it won't be said, but I will do my best to not use the word as often.
All right, now that I am done planting everything, I put all of my pots in this heavy duty tray that I got from Bootstrap Farmer. Love them. But I bottom water all of my seedlings. So I'm gonna set these in here for now. I'm gonna let them soak up the water. And once they're done soaking up all the water, I am going to put them in a tray and put them on my small heat mat that I have to help get the germination process started. And I'll probably put a humidity dome over them to also assist in the germination process. But when I started the soil medium that I'm using, it was damp but not wet. So by bottom watering, it will take up what it needs and make it so I'm not like dispersing the seeds and they're not like just flying all around the pot and there. I also thought it would be a good idea to show you what I do have growing. I've started all kinds of different stuff. I got my onions going. We have all kinds of brassicas. We have kale and cabbage and broccoli and cauliflower. Some of these will be going to family. I started way too much cabbage and I am the only one that eats it in my house. So I am definitely going to be sending some off to live in other people's gardens. Up here, we got some flowers going. I started some eucalyptus and echinacea. I am hoping to have some sort of like a cottage garden feel in my flower beds, but my main focus right now is really growing food and sprinkling in flowers as I can. Over here we have a bunch of celery, we have more kale, we have more cabbage and parsley. And up here, currently taking over my heat mat are my pepper seeds. So it gets a little cold in my office at night and I really wanted to make sure that these grew well, so I figured I'd stick them on my heat mat until I have to put something else on there. But that's what we got growing on here right now. Thank you for joining me today.